What happens when you only have one chance to engrave an object? When a customer, or your wife in my case, gives you something that they really enjoy and they want you to put your lasers to use and make it pretty, but you only have one of those objects and you've never worked with that particular color, finish, or the object itself. In today's video, I'm going to give you guys my tips and tricks, show you my process on how I do just that. I take a plain coral stainless steel tumbler, a very special mug to my wife, and give it a full wrap with the laser without a rotary. So double dip this chip, find out how to do the settings, get a job right the first time with no tests, and how to engrave a wrap with the xTool F1 with no rotary. If you have no patience, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of how to do this. Step 1, go to an LLM model online, such as ChatGPT or Grok, put in your machine, your object, and ask for settings. Step 2, find your graphic, split it up, and engrave it piece by piece as you rotate your object around in your laser. Now, if you want to stick around for the full how-to and tutorial, definitely do, and I hope you do, because you're not only going to see all of those real-life explanations and how I use them, but you're also going to see how exactly I get precise, repeatable engravings on this cup as I rotate it around. Spoiler alert, I use a jig from a really cool guy named Sam of Samcraft to make it happen. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. First things first, setting up our laser. Now that the laser is set up and my mug is sitting in that jig perfectly level on the X and Y axis, we can now jump over to the computer, and I want to show you guys how I leverage an LLM model such as Grok to make my life easier and help us figure out what the settings need to be for this. Because again, I've never run it. I don't have preset settings, and I don't have the luxury of a test grid. So what I've got here is telling Grok that I have the xTool F1. I then also have my cup. I also describe the color, that it's powder coated, and that it is stainless steel below. And the last thing I always like to put in there is at least what kind of graphics I'm going to be engraving. There are differences in your settings and your options between vector graphics, which are SVGs, which is what I like to use. Those you have speed and power, or images. Images is where you get your dot duration and other issues, and those can be a little bit trickier to dial in. So to keep it simple, to save my sanity and hopefully not mess this up, we're going with full vector. So I type this into Grok. I'm going to press enter on my keyboard, and this is where Grok is going to think. He's even telling us he's going to think, or it is telling us it's thinking. One thing that is really cool is that you can see briefly here that it is searching the web. So I saw it pop up a little bit that it's searching xTool. Now it's over here at a website called silhouetteschoolblog.com, and that's really cool. It is doing what we would normally be doing as humans. Search, read, search, read. It's doing all that for us. So this is honestly one of the many great uses of this kind of service. One really cool thing about Grok, and I think ChatGPT may also do this, is that it gives you step-by-step instructions. And if you need to deep dive, just ask it to deep dive. It's very good. So here we can see it's telling us to set up our hardware. We're good. We have our fancy jig. We are ready to go. Next, it wants us to prepare our design in xTool Creative Space. We'll get to that here in a second. And as we get down here to number 3, this is really what we're after. These are the material and settings. So looking here, the coated metal, it wants you to use the blue diode laser, which is good. I knew that much at least going into this. What I wasn't sure about was the power and the speed, of which it says, you know what, go with 80 to 100% power, speed 400 millimeters per second, and a lines per centimeter at 300. This is all really good. A lot of times when people have issues engraving stainless steel tumblers or drinkware, it will look kind of weird. It'll have weird lines in it. Most all of that is due to your lines per centimeter. So up your resolution for a more crisp looking result. So the last thing we got here is also where it talks about passes. Right here it says go with 1. If you need more, go with additional. That's absolutely what I'm going to be doing. So awesome. According to Grok, which is what I'm going to go with, this F1 laser with this particular item, we're going to engrave it at 80% power, 400 millimeters per second, 300 lines per centimeter, 1 pass, and then repeat number of passes if we need to. All right, let's jump into xTool Creative Space next. Actually, hang on, I need to back up a little bit because I don't yet have my design picked out. So I have pulled up the website, this one that I pay for. It's called Creative Fabrica, and it is hands down the best money I've ever spent when it comes to getting designs and doing this kind of creative stuff, because I'm not very creative when it comes to graphical stuff. So I've logged in, and what I'm going to do up here at the top is search for flower SVG. That's pretty much what we want to do. My wife loves flowers, so I'm looking for flowers as an SVG. Here I'm able to scroll through the options, and obviously I'm just looking for black and white. I'm not looking for full color like Cricut cut files or anything like that, although Creative Fabrica has a ton of different options. Even outside of the world of laser engraving, a ton of different options. So let's look through here a little bit and see if I can find something that's pretty. All right, this one right here, the Wildflower SVG pack, looks really good. I want to do a kind of a wrap feel, although I'm not going to do a full wrap. This isn't a rotary engraving. I want to give it that look and that feel, and this would be something that I could take, maybe space them out apart and engrave, rotate, and do that. So we'll stick this in our pocket here, but keep looking otherwise. Now this one looks a lot better. This is an SVG flower pack, but this is already one layer and it's kind of spaced out. I definitely like that one. Cool. Let me look a little bit more and see if I can come up with anything else here. All right, so I see this one here where my cursor is on the screen. I like that. I like that it has a border at the bottom. I wonder if they have any kind of repeating patterns. So let me go up here to my search and do flower SVG repeating pattern. I don't know. I'm guessing. I've not looked this stuff up ahead of time. Scrolling up top to look. Not really what I'm looking for. How about a wrap? Flower SVG wrap. Although I think this is going to get us into sublimation. I don't know. That one right there, number 2, looking pretty good. Looking real good. All right, right click, open a new tab. Let's keep on scrolling. Okay, actually these are pretty cool. All right, so canned glass wraps. Not really going to apply very well to laser engraving. This is definitely something you do with a UV printer, but I can definitely set that in the back pocket here of Sam because he might actually have one. Haven't shown it in a video yet. Let's see what else we got here. Ooh. Even better, open that in a new tab. That may be the one. Glass can wrap flower SVG bundle. Looks very nice. So cool, going to download it. So I've launched xTool Creative Space and I've connected to my laser. What I want to do next is go ahead and start bringing in my graphics. So I'll go up here to the image, click on this, go to my downloads folder, open up the glass can wrap, do this, and let's do sunflower glass. My wife loves sunflowers. So we'll choose the SVG file, click on open, and at this point, it wants to scale it to fit the canvas, but I don't want that just yet. So I'm gonna choose no, display in the original size. All right, so it pulled in this one, and I really like it, but here is my concern. What I want to do is basically chunk this design up into little sections that can be easily ingested or processed at a time. I don't have a rotary, so I'm not going to be wrapping this entire thing. So what I'm thinking is, here if I make a green rectangle here on the screen, this is pretty much what I'm estimating the width of my laser to be able to engrave without getting distortion while the cup itself doesn't move. So like the window of opportunity without a rotary. What I'm going to need to do is to take this and then slice the image and the wrap to fit within this area. Again, roughly. This is going to be kind of difficult to do for this graphic. So can't use that one. And honestly, I think I probably need to go back to look at a different file, because some of these, well, I don't know, some of these over here look like they might be doable. Okay, I think this will work. So this one with the individual flowers being, well, individual flowers, I think I can separate them into layers, and this will probably work. So let's scale this to 100 millimeters tall. So we're almost there. And now we'll go ahead and align this on the center of our workspace. And at this point, with it selected, I'm going to choose Release Compound. This little icon right here at the top. That's going to take what is all one big graphic and split it into multiples. So when I click that, you now see that, well, we lost a lot of our image interest, but we have a ton of little squares. It's taken every shape, every outline, and made it into its own little thing. That's okay. That's what we need to do. At this point, what I'm going to do is go through and select the objects that I want to make into one. So like, for example, this guy over here, when I've got them all selected, I'm going to go up here to Make Compound Vector. When I click that, boom, the flower, or I guess leaves in this case, look good, but they are all in a group. So now I can move them to their own layer. I'll do the same thing here for, looks like Mr. Slug. Boom, Compound Vector. Mr. Slug's going to be purple, why not? And I'm just going to move down the line just like this, selecting, holding down the Shift key and clicking, making sure I get all the little graphics inside of everything. Once I have them selected, click the Make Compound button, looks great, and then stick them on a different layer if I can, just to keep them separated visually. Okay, so I've learned that if you hold down the Control-Z undo button, apparently xTool Creative Space goes wild, and it's now undoing all my work. It won't let me stop the undo. Oh my gosh. I wonder if it's stuck in an undo loop here. It's like going back to the beginning of time here. Well, there you go. Be careful on your undos with your keyboard shortcuts. Okay, so thinking about how to best handle this graphic with doing a wrap when I'm not really using a rotary, I'm going to move everyone over off to the side, off of the canvas. I then want to take everyone and put it on the same layer. So let's make it purple, because this we're now going to ignore. We don't want the laser to think about any of these purple layers. Now what we can do is zoom in. We can select our first little graphic we want to engrave, go up here and choose Align Center. Then we will move it to red. So let's make red the color whenever we're engraving. Now we can take this, we can define our settings, and then we'll run it on engrave it. And then what we'll do is once this is done, we'll come back, we'll pull this one off, make it purple. We'll bring in the second one we want to engrave, make it red, right? We're going to enable it as a layer and then engrave it. So all in all, we're going to be doing multiple jobs and multiple engravings. We're going to have 1, 2, 3, 10, 11 different engraving jobs on this one cup. But I think it's going to be the best thing to give us the best outcome in the end. So let's start with the butterfly and the little flower. Click on Align Center. Go ahead to our settings, which is going to be engrave. We're going to be using the blue light. And if we remember our settings from Grok, 80% power, 400 millimeters per second, 1 pass, and 300 lines per centimeter. So all the way to the bottom. Awesome. Now I'm going to click on the framing. It will take you guys over to the laser to start lining this up. So we're here at the laser and we have our first little image framing up. Now one thing to note, you see how it's about as wide as my fingers. It's perfect fine here, it's focused with the cup, but I don't want it here, I want it over this way. The problem is if I rotate it this way where I want it, I can't let it go because this handle wants to pull it down. So what I'm going to do is use some Machinist 123 blocks and basically make myself a little handle shim. Just something to prop under the handle to get it where I want, but most importantly, make it to where I can walk away. Because I may have to run this 1 or 2 passes. That's why I'm not just going to say, hey, I'll hold it and close my eyes and send it. I got to take the human out of this equation. So, looks good, looks nice, but most importantly, it is solid. So great. I will lower the lid as much as I can. We don't have a whole lot of room to work with here. And then I'm going to turn on my air purifier, and then we'll run this job. I want to look, but not touch, and see if I think if that engraved far enough. Honestly, I believe it did, but just to be safe, because if I think it's good, I'm gonna move it. I'm gonna do one more pass. So carefully sit this down, not bumping the mug. Careful, careful. Turn my air purifier back on and then double tap the button on the side of the machine to repeat the job. All right, 2 passes looks like the sweet spot for this to make sure it is through good enough. And that's some pretty good coverage on this. The 100 millimeters, pretty good on this cup. As you can see here, I'm pretty much repeating the same process over and over. I will engrave one design. When it's done, I load up my next, frame it, adjust the cup and move it to where I want, engrave that, move it to the next, and over, just repeating the process. As I work around this mug, the only challenging part was whenever I had the handle on the very bottom of the mug. I had the mug sitting on the handle, which made it a little out of focus for the F1. I had the F1 maxed out as tall as it would go at that point, and it was just a little bit off. Thankfully though, with the blue diode laser, you do have a little more wiggle room with that focusing depth, and I was able to still get it engraved as I want in that area. Another thing that I've noticed on some of these graphics, they are close to about 45 millimeters wide, or as you look at the laser front to back, and that was pushing the envelope. At the very edges of those graphics, there's a little bit of feathering, or you can tell that it didn't get as fully engraved as it did throughout the middle. So I would say the sweet spot with this kind of setup is a graphic somewhere around probably 35 millimeters by 100 or whatever you want to do width-wise. At least that's what I'm finding with this. Your mileage may vary, of course, as always, but that's what I found throughout this project that I also wanted to share with you. Now that the mug is fully engraved, let's go ahead and take it over to my utility sink and clean up the residue to see what kind of final outcome we have. Normally what I would like to use is a magic eraser, but I can't find it. I don't know where it went. So instead, I'm going to use my second best item, and that is some super clean degreaser. Just spray it on there using a soft bristle brush, scrub it up a little bit, rinse it off. Once that looks good, I then follow that up with another washing with some Dawn Blue dish soap. And the reason I do that is to remove any kind of the degreaser stuff from the cup. I will always recommend, even after all of this and the hand washing, still put it through a dishwasher or hand wash it again once you're in the house before you start using it to drink out of. Well, what do you think? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Did you learn something? I really hope you did. If anything else, hopefully you enjoyed this and learned something from this video, because that's my main goal. I'm not trying to sell you a cool wrapped mug. I might be trying to sell you some laser jigs, right? Being honest. But otherwise, I'm really here to give you content to get your noggin thinking, to maybe show you a solution of how to deal with the one-off, don't have the option to test. This is actually a pretty good skill. It's one that I've used occasionally, and I probably haven't leveraged enough, but this is just another example of me realizing you can do it, Sam. Don't be scared. The reason for that is the business model of bring me your object, I will customize it for you. While being scary and risky, is very profitable. There's not a lot of people out there who will do that. A lot of people will say, no, 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 I've got my own products. I'm only going to do that. Honestly, I've done that in the past. I've been that guy. But now as I see this, maybe with some more practice, I could be the one-off custom engraving guy if I want. Don't know, but it's possible. All right, guys, that's going to be it for this one. If you got any questions or comments, leave them for me down below. There will also be links to the jig and the adapter down below, which I make and sell myself. So if you choose to purchase it, you're directly helping me and my family, and we thank you for it. And then lastly, if you want to check out Creative Fabrica, which is the website that I personally pay for and subscribe to for graphics, there'll be a link to that down there too. Otherwise, take care. I'll see you guys next time in the workshop.